All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting episode of D&D Did a Deep Dive, the show where we dive deep into classes, subclasses, and other features of 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons to help you get the most out of your choices. So, today, we are going to be continuing with our divinely inspired series by going over the new divine domain for the Cleric in Sword Coast Adventurers Guide, which I understand the word new is a bit of a misnomer since it's been out for like 4 or 5 years. But it's new for this channel. The new domain in the Sword Coast Adventurers Guide is the Arcana domain, which is basically, effectively a cleric that dabbles a little bit in arcane magic. If you're unaware of the kind of different kinds of magic that exist, basically, in Dungeons and Dragons, all magic is cast by manipulating this thing called the weave. The weave is kind of this underlying layer of magic, and manipulating it causes magical effects to happen. Each different spellcaster accesses the weave and manipulates it in different ways. For wizards, it's a science experiment. They study the weaves specifically. They figure out how to manipulate it using words, using foci, using components and different things like that. But it's very scientific. You know, A plus B equals C, and that's always how it works. For sorcerers, they are innate spellcasters. They have this natural connection to the weave that allows them to effectively just feel the weave around them, and using their own abilities and their own charisma, effectively, their own ability to influence other things, they're able to will the weave to change and interact the way that they will want it to. For warlocks, they make a pact with another creature that grants them spells. So quite literally, a warlock is basically interacting with the weave through a third party. However, that third party very often is still going to be doing arcane manipulations. So wizards, sorcerers, and warlocks are all arcane casters. Also, bards are as well. Then you get into what's called divine magic. Divine magic, you're still interacting with the weave, but instead of you doing it personally, you have a deity that is actually granting you the power for you. But your ability to interact with the weave is based entirely on your faith in your deity. And this is true of all divine magics as spellcasters. Both paladins and clerics, they get their power from their faith. They trust that their deity is going to interact with the weave and cause the weave to do the things that they want it to, and that's where their spell power comes from. So because of that, they generally get access to different kinds of spells than arcane casters, and that's what makes the Arcana domain so interesting, because it is a kind of blend of arcane and divine magic into a really cool little package. So let's actually dive into the subclass. First things first, it's the same thing we do every single time I do one of these videos. And that is, we're going to talk about some 5th edition class design. In D&D 5th edition, All classes are meant to play very, very differently right from the beginning. So they have these things that we call defining features. In order to be a defining feature, it has to show up in the class within the first 2 levels. What are the cleric defining features? Well, the first defining feature is actually their subclass. You choose your divine domain right at character creation for the cleric. It's them and sorcerers are the only ones that choose their subclass at first level. Because of that, their subclass is going to massively change how you play your cleric. And it's also going to change what spells you have access to, one of your channel divinities. Like it's such a big part that we consider it a defining feature because it'll vastly change how the cleric plays. The other first level of or the first level defining ability that they get is their spellcasting. Now, they are not the only spellcasters in the game. However, the way clerics get their use their spellcasting ability is a little bit unique. Effectively, clerics learn their cantrips just like any other class. You have a set number of cantrips that you know. Those are the only cantrips that you can ever cast. As you grow in levels, you will learn more cantrips, but you can't pick up a spell scroll of a cantrip and learn it or anything. You only learn your cantrips through leveling up. The rest of your spells, however, every morning you can prepare a number of spells equal to your wisdom modifier plus your cleric level. But you get to prepare those spells from the entire cleric spell list. So every single day you have access to the entire cleric spell list, and you pick and choose the ones that you feel are going to be most effective for you. Compare that to a sorcerer where they just learn spells, or a wizard where they do prepare spells, but they have to be from their spell book. It's a very unique thing that's really only shared with druids, who still do it a very different way. And it means that clerics can be of a very, very customizable, even on a per day basis. If one day you're going to be delving into a dungeon, you may choose things like find traps or sense invisibility or something like that. Whereas when you're going to be spending most of the day in a town, you might have things that are better at manipulating people, things like calm emotions, stuff like that. So yeah, clerics every morning have to kind of look over and see, okay, what spells are going to be best for me. At second level, the other defining feature that they get is their channel divinity. Now, this is not exclusive to clerics. Paladins also get channel divinities, like we talked about last time. But again, clerics, they get at second level, they have one channel divinity per long rest. But as they gain levels, at 6th level, they have 2 per long rest. And then at 18th level, they have 3 per long rest. So clerics actually get multiple channel divinities per day compared to the paladin, who only ever gets 1, but it recharges on a short rest. So clerics are nowhere near as dependent on short rests as paladins are. The other unique thing about the cleric is all clerics have 1 channel divinity that is the same for all of them, and then at least 1 channel divinity from their divine domain. And the one that all clerics share is Turn Undead. Turning Undead effectively causes any undead that fails its saving throw to not only be frightened of them, but they cannot attack. They can only use their action to run as far away as possible, or if they can't run further away from you, they have to use their action to dodge. It is an incredibly useful control ability because you can effectively take a horde of undead and turn them completely powerless because they can no longer use any of their actions to do anything harmful to the team. Now, obviously, they can make their saves and the things like that, but without making a save, they are just screwed. So Turn Undead is incredibly useful. So those are the defining features of the Cleric. Let's see how the Arcana domain changes things. So, first things first. At first level, for every divine domain, you get what are called domain spells. These are just extra spells that you get access to. Sometimes they are cleric spells. Sometimes they are not cleric spells. Most divine domains have a healthy mixture of some cleric and some non-cleric spells. The thing that makes domain spells different than the regular spells you're going to prepare is, first, you always have them prepared, and second of all, they don't count against the number of spells you can prepare. So these are just always in your back pocket. And for the Arcana domain spells, they're exactly what you would think they would be. Things like Detect Magic, Magic Missile, Dispel Magic as you get higher. And then at at 9th level, when you get your most powerful ones, you get Teleportation Circle and Planar Binding. So a lot of very arcane feeling spells. They make sense. A lot of them will give you a fair amount of utility. And especially when you have things like Magic Missile, this Cleric is a little bit more aggressive and damage focused than some other Cleric subclasses where they're a little more protection. No, you're getting access to some wizard spells, so you can do some pretty powerful stuff. The second thing you get at the first level is Arcane Initiate. Basically, when you choose the domain at first level, you gain proficiency in the Arcana skill, always useful. You gain 2 cantrips of your choice from the wizard spell list, and for you, these cantrips count as cleric cantrips. So first things first, clerics start out with 3 cantrips. The Arcana domain starts out with 5, and 2 of those are wizard cantrips. There are tons and tons. Wizards have more spells possible to learn than any other class in the game. So just the sheer amount of spells that opens up to you is mind-boggling. One thing I will say, if you want to go the route of just pick the one that gives you the most power, you can. If you want to go, something like Firebolt, gives you a D10 damage die. It levels up as you level up. It's a really powerful spell. But you can also get other spells like we've talked about that give you a little bit more control aspects. Spells that will stop creatures from regenerating, or spells that will slow creatures, things like that. There's a lot you can do with it, and having access to the entire wizard cantrip list to pick your 2 cantrips just gives you a lot to work with. So yeah, super cool, super interesting. Choose your cantrips well. This is definitely a class. I would say plan out the first 6-ish levels when you're building the character, because those wizard cantrips are going to be essential in your character build. At 2nd level, you get your Channel Divinity option. This one is Arcane Abjuration. And it literally, it is the same ability that you get with Turn Undead, except it affects more than just, or different creatures than just undeads. So this effectively expands your ability to turn creatures. As an action, you present your holy symbol, and one celestial, elemental, fey, or fiend of your choice that is within 30 feet of you must make a wisdom saving throw, provided the creature can see or hear you. If the creature fails its saving throw, it is turned for 1 minute or until it takes any damage. This part right here is almost identical to Turn Undead, the difference being this is only one celestial, elemental, fey, or fiend, versus Turn Undead is all of them that can hear you. But like Turn Undead, it doesn't get multiple saves. It fails its save, and it's done. And then it has the same effect as to turn undead. A turned creature must spend its turn trying to move as far away from you as it can, and it can't willingly end its move in a space within 30 feet of you. It also can't take reactions, and for its action, it can only use the dash action to try and escape from an effect that prevents it from moving, or try to escape from an effect that prevents it from moving. If there's nowhere to move, the creature can use the dodge action. So it can't take reactions. It can only use its dash action or dodge action. You have effectively eliminated a creature from combat for a minute, which is 10 rounds. Now, after you reach 5th level, it upgrades. Just like Turn Undead, it turns to Destroy Undead. Arcane Abjuration turns into a banishment spell. Basically, if the creature isn't on its plane of origin, for Fey creatures, that's the Feywild. For elemental creatures, that's going to be their elemental plane. For celestials, that is I can't remember what it's called. Heaven, effectively, and for fiends, it's hell. So as long as you are on as long as they're on a plane that they're not supposed to be on, you can actually banish them instead of abjuring them, based on the challenge rating of the creature and your level. At 5th level, any creature of challenge rating 1/2 or lower will be banished instead of turned. And it goes all the way up to 17th level. It's when you're 17th level, it's challenge rating 4 or lower. So this isn't every single creature gets banished. But weaker creatures are just going to outright get banished. And the unique thing about it, the banishment spell is a concentration spell. But the Arcane Abjuration Channel Divinity banishes them and specifically says no concentration required. If a creature remains banished for a minute, they are permanently banished. They're not going to come back. With the banishment spell, if you end the spell early, or it gets broken through to damage or something like that, anything that causes you to stop concentrating on it, it comes back. So this effectively, you don't have to worry about the spell ending because it's not a concentration spell. They are just banished for a minute, and then if they stay there for a minute, which doesn't really explain how they could not be there, because you can't dispel magic on them because they're on another plane of existence, and there's no way to stop you from concentrating on the spell because you're not concentrating on it. So effectively, this just removes a creature from combat, which is really useful. Now again, it's only on lower powered creatures, but lower powered creatures can still be rough. The only thing I don't like about this is the Destroy Undead aspect of Turn Undead is basically there because when you get to a high enough level, 1 or 2 low challenge rating creatures are not going to be a threat to you. But 6 or 12 of them will be. And they can be very, very damaging. So Turn Undead is basically designed to deal with or Destroy Undead is designed to deal with hordes of zombies or things like that. That can be very, very damaging, but you can just destroy them. This is just one creature that's a low level. It feels like a really bad use of your channel divinity. I would much rather see them allow you to banish much higher level creatures, since again you're only allowed to use it on one, and it only affects certain kinds of creatures. But that's my only kind of myth with this is the fact that it only affects one creature for the banishment aspect. But banishment is still a really powerful spell, so swings and roundabouts. At 6th level, you get what's called Spellbreaker. Basically, when you restore hit points to an ally with a spell of first level or higher, you can also end one spell of your choice on that creature. The level of the spell you end must be equal to or lower than the level of the spell slot you use to cast the healing spell. This effectively turns the spell Healing Word into Dispel Magic at a much lower level, and has the added benefit of healing them. Basically, any time you heal a creature, you can remove a spell of effect from them. And this also means if you do something like mass cure wounds, or Beacon of Hope, anything, and you have multiple players that are affected by a spell, you can get rid of it all, which isn't something that exists. And Dispel Magic specifically removes all spells on the creature. So if there's beneficial spells, you don't get to make pick and choose on that. You just get rid of everything. This is very targeted and is very, very effective. So this, at 6th level, you're probably not going to be using it a ton, other than maybe dealing with like hold persons or the things like that. But as you get to high tier 2 and then to tier 3 and tier 4 content, where you're dealing with super powerful spellcasters that will use really, really rough spells on you, this is a game changer. You get to heal your party, which is really, really useful, and get rid of bad stuff. Things like Dominate Person is a really, really rough one to deal with, especially if you have something like a Barbarian in your party that's not a Berserker, so they can be charmed when they're raging. They can be really, really bad when a high-level spellcaster takes them over and has them just start great weapon fighting, killing all of your squishies. Well, not with this Cleric. You can get rid of that. Things like, again, Hold Person is really, really rough, especially if it hits multiple creatures. Because, again, paralysis means any melee attacks within 5 feet are auto crits if they hit. So yeah, this is super useful. It really adds a lot to your healing ability and makes you the ultimate support character on your team. At 8th level, this is how all cleric subclasses, or almost all the way up till Tasha's, work, is they will either be focused on spellcasting or they will be focused on melee attacks. And the way you can figure out which one it is whether they get potent spellcasting or the equivalent of Divine Smite. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. This one gets potent spellcasting because it's Arcana. So basically what it does, it lets you add your wisdom modifier to damage you deal with any cleric cantrip, which includes those wizard cantrips you got because they count as cleric cantrips. So this just means you can do a lot more damage with your cantrips. You will still be using a lot of your, because you're a full spellcaster, you will still be using a lot of your leveled spells as well. But this does mean that whenever you don't want to use your leveled spells, you're going to be doing a little bit more damage, which is very nice. Finally, at 17th level, you get Arcane Mastery. At 17th level, you choose 4 spells from the wizard spell list, 1 from each of the following levels: 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. You add them to your list of domain spells. Like your other domain spells, they are always prepared and count as cleric spells for you. You get access to the most powerful spells in the game. Clerics have super cool 8th and 9th level magic, don't get me wrong. But in general, they're never going to be able to compete with a wizard as far as raw damage is concerned. Unless you're an Arcana cleric. Then you get 4 wizard spells. Now, again, just like your wizard cantrips, this is something that you do want to choose based on how you want your character to play. Because, again, unlike what happens with the rest of your cleric spells, where every morning you get to pick whatever spells you want, these are a one and done to the thing. At 17th level, you pick these spells, you never get to change them. So once you pick these spells, you better be very happy with them. That being said, they're super high level wizard spells. There are so many useful wizard spells that will just change your outlook on life as a cleric. And you will change, again, you still have that massive utility from Spell Breaker. And you still have your Channel Divinity options to give you some control. But now you have super powerful wizard spells. And again, these are added to your domain spells. These are not, okay, you can cast 1 6th level spell a day, 1 7th. No, these are just spells you always have prepared, and they don't count against the number of spells you have prepared. So as long as you have slots, you can cast these spells. Yeah, just super cool, super useful. So let's get to final thoughts. Overall, I really like this. Again, it's a really cool blending of divine and arcane spellcasting. The domain spells make sense. Most of the domain spells are a little bit more utility than they are damage focus. But as soon as you start picking up cantrips, and especially when you get to Arcane Mastery, you can shift this cleric very quickly to just a massive damage dealing, just crazy powerful. And the other thing that's cool, since clerics can wear armor and cast, you are going to be much harder to hit than your standard wizard. So compared to the squishy wizard, you're going to be pretty dangerous just in general. And because you because you're going to be doing most of your damage through your cantrips because of potent spellcasting, you don't need to add any strength like you would need to if you were going to be like a paladin, where you have to actually attack the things. No, you can put all of your points into wisdom and then into to dexterity to pump up that armor class, and also to make sure in initiative you're going first and getting rid of the bad things very quickly. Again, we talked about Arcane Abjuration. Very useful in specific situations. It's effectively another version of to turn undead with some banishment things. And then again, Arcane Mastery is amazing. This is definitely one of the most powerful subclasses that you find in Sword Coast Adventures Guide. We've been talking so far, like quite a few of the subclasses in here feel a little bit underpowered. This was the first expansion to the 5th edition rules set, so they hadn't quite mastered the things. And some of the classes in here, like the Wizard's Bladesinger, have already been errataed and reprinted in later editions to just make them more useful. So I like the fact that this doesn't need any tweaking. It's just a good subclass to play a very different kind of cleric. But anyway, that is going to be all for me today. As always, if you enjoy this, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, turn notifications on, so you never miss any of these videos. In the comments down below, what is your favorite deity of magic? In the Forgotten Realms, we've got Mystra is the one that's super popular, and that's the one that everyone thinks of. But Corellon from the Elven Pantheon is considered a god of magic. Azuth is a god of magic. And then going to other campaign settings, like Vecna is considered a god of magic in Greyhawk. Bad magic. But yeah, so let me know, what is your favorite deity of magic in the comments below. Otherwise, again, that is all for me, and I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.